Oh, hello. I didn't see all of you there. How much is Wakanda worth? Well, according to the comics, the original meteorite that fell to Earth had 10,000 tons of vibranium in it. So 10,000 tons is equivalent to 10 million kilograms. Now, how much is vibranium worth? Also, according to the comics, it has a trade-in value among some of the most rare earth metals, some of the most expensive rare earth metals on Earth, which would be, $10,000 per gram. Now, this is already a lot if you multiply 10 million times 10,000. But remember, grams to kilograms, there's also another factor of 1,000 that we're not factoring in here. So the price of the vibranium meteor from which Wakanda sprung forth would be $100 trillion, which is more than all of the financial assets on Earth combined. That is how Wakanda could be so advanced, the most advanced. They have a whole planet's worth of money. Hello, and welcome to Because Science Live. We're trying this format out for the first time in addition to all the other new content that we're doing for these channels. I hope you like it, because now you can ask me questions directly. Yes, this is not pre-recorded. It is live, and I'll be taking your questions. This is just an appetizer. So, what do we got? Who's commenting? Is time travel possible from Noah Lancaster? Time travel is possible as far as we know, but only in one direction. So, the Lorentz factor, which is denoted by gamma, gamma, tells us how space, mass, and time change as you go really, really fast. So if you go really, really, really fast, close to the speed of light, this gamma will get very big. Then you apply that to how time ticks for you. And the math works out that you experience less time than other people. So if you're going very, very fast for some amount of time, when you stop going that speed, everyone on Earth or in the universe will have aged more than you have aged. That's time travel, but just in one direction. What else we got? How much is adamantium worth? No idea, dude. It is just, there's 200 pounds or so on Wolverine's skeleton, and there's some in Captain America's shield. It's gotta be close to this value here because it is so rare, but I don't know the exact figure on that one. It's gonna be very pricey. Super Poop asks, can gravity work in reverse? Like anti-gravity. As far as we know, there's nothing that's very anti-gravity-esque that can lift you up off of the ground without providing some kind of thrust, moving mass away from you. So how airplanes move, or let's say helicopters, it looks like they're not pushing down on anything, but they're actually forcing masses of air through the blades down towards the ground, and that provides a reactionary force upwards, which creates lift. Rockets, when they lift off, they shoot mass downwards, which makes them really, really fast, like the Falcon Heavy, and that makes them go upwards really, really fast. We don't know of anything like that that doesn't involve some kind of mass transfer, anti-gravity. So, not yet. How do my markers work? Like markers. Kind of like this. Yeah, a lot of you have asked for behind-the-scenes style videos, and this is about as far as I'm gonna get with that at the moment. Hey, you can figure this out. What else we got?
How does the Wakanda cloak and shield work?
So, Black Panther comes out this weekend. Spoiler alert, it's pretty good. And in the film, Wakanda is able to stay off the grid of the world and able to keep its resources secret because it forms a cloaking shield, kind of kind of like Harry Potter's invisibility cloak, except you can move through it. How would you do something like that? Well, let's say that we have Wakandan buildings here, and they have awesome designs, kind of like, be careful, Kyle, kind of like this. How would we hide this from the world? Well, we would have to have something installed around it that would reflect or otherwise change the path of light around these structures. So you'd want incoming photons of light to travel and then travel back towards the eye. So you're not reflecting any light off of the structures and getting back to your eye. So you are not seeing anything new. This is what invisibility cloaks hope to do by changing the way that light reaches your eye, or by creating metamaterials that bend the light around an object so you never see the object's light. If this was something like the Invisible Woman, though, you'd need some of those photons. Invisible Woman. Susan Storm? Miss Invisible? What's her name? The Invisible Woman. You need still some photons going into her eyes so she could see, which means that if you had invisibility powers, there's some version of it where the invisible person is walking and you just see their eyeballs or the backs of their eyes just moving through space, which would be absolutely terrifying. I should do an episode on that. Hey, how's everyone doing? Let me know in the comments. Let me know if you like this new format, because in case you haven't heard, if you're watching on Twitch, for example, Because Science is now its own ecosystem. We have our own channel on Facebook, our own channel on YouTube, and we have our own presence across social media on Instagram and Twitter. So we're now doing new stuff like this, where you get to talk to me directly. We're also doing vlogs where we talk about each episode, what I got right, what I got wrong, what you thought about it, and we have the main episode of Because Science. It's our own little space. I mean, this is our own little space because you can't see this, but this extends out into infinity. What else we got?
Been playing Mass Effect Andromeda, and this Scourge is
The Scourge. The Scourge Sensa. So Mass Effect Andromeda says that the Scourge, you'll never last 2 days out in the Scourge, is a concentration of dark energy. Hey, that sounds like a sci-fi word, but it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Dark energy, we think, we use it, first of all, as a placeholder term for the energy that seems to be pushing the universe apart. The universe is accelerating in every direction away from everything, which is trippy, at an accelerating rate. It's going faster and faster and faster and expanding. We think this is dark energy, but we don't know what it is. So, to have something be visible, you can see the Scourge in Mass Effect Andromeda. You can see it. So to be something visible, it's not going to be some kind of energy. It has to be some kind of matter, or it's emitting some kind of energy. Because we don't see visible traces of either dark matter or dark energy, that's why we call them dark. I don't think that's what it is in Mass Effect Andromeda. It has to be something else that interacts with regular matter. Dark matter and dark energy do not interact with regular matter as far as we know it. Ho! We're off to a pretty good start.
Rossi, here's a question for Kyle. What do you think could be the next great innovation? Something that can tell us what kind of the next stage of technology?
What could be the next great human innovation? Well, I don't want to speculate because everyone is always wrong about everything they say about the future, but what is right around the corner, which will change human life, is autonomous vehicles. So in the US, this is all off the top of my head. I think we're doing pretty good. In the US, around 40,000 people die a year on the highway, which is right up there with guns. It's right up there with other terrible afflictions. So if we implement autonomous vehicles, full autonomy, that are even some percentage safer than human drivers, let's say they're even just 10% better, then you are saving thousands of lives a year. And beyond that, autonomous vehicles could reduce traffic congestion. They could make money for you by kind of Ubering themselves if you don't need the car. And they would save lives. It is the next big thing for human society, I think. And full autonomy is here, just not on the road. So in the next 2 to 5 years, I think, traffic is going to be way different, which will be better. People, that's what I don't like. When one autonomous vehicle crashes, they say, oh, well, Tesla is a death trap. Think of how many crashes it's not having. Keep in mind the context of statistics, and statistically, autonomy is much safer than you. Computers are faster than this. You don't want that. What else we got? Excuse me for 1 second.
RYVIL1. Can we talk about how purple isn't a real color? Because that's awesome. Is that real?
Purple isn't a real color? Looks pretty real to me. Oh!
How dangerous was the carbon freezing shown on Console Electronics?
I've wanted. So, how dangerous is being frozen in carbonite? This kind of reminds me of the problem with cryonics. So, if you are frozen and you're frozen through, you're dead. If your metabolism stops, you are dead. There are animals that get around this problem. There is a small wood frog in North America that has a kind of antifreeze in its blood. And in the wintertime, it allows itself to be completely frozen, but the cells aren't damaged because it has the antifreeze. When you get freezer burn on your food, that's because ice crystals are forming in the cells and growing and then popping those cells. So you have some food item, and as you let it, if you just leave it in the freezer, ice crystals form and break through the cell walls, and that leads to a bad meal. So going back to carbonite, it would have to be a process where he is not fully frozen through, which we see in Return of the Jedi when he is released from carbonite. You have hibernation sickness, or however that goes. You see that he's not frozen through. It's more like a layer. So he would have to have some kind of additional life support happening within the slab of carbonite, which I think we see with the flashing boop, 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 boop. So I don't know what carbonite is. I assume it's some allotrope of carbon like graphite or diamond is, but yeah. What else? Ooh, doing pretty good so far. I hope you are enjoying this new format. This is completely live. All of this is off the top of my head. Kind of behind the scenes look at how I do some of these things, and this is something that I want to do going forward, being able to have a direct conversation with you between the live streams and the vlogs to grow out our little Because Science ecosystem. I try my best to interest you and maybe help you learn something, and you do the exact same for me. So let's keep it going.
Okay, this one's from Bondo. How well will the pink level Tesla space car last? Will the heat from the sun fade?
Yeah, how long would the Tesla Roadster kind of last in space? I saw an article on this. If you brought the Tesla Roadster back from space now, would it be drivable? That is really hard. That is a super complicated question. And I'll just, instead of answering it because I don't know, think of the number of things you would have to make sure aren't happening in the car if you put it in space. So something that I don't think we think about because we've seen too many movies is that if you enter space with any air inside of you or inside of tubes in a car or even fluid inside of a car, because there is effectively zero pressure in space, that gas and that liquid is going to want to expand very, very quickly. If I threw you out of an airlock in a spaceship, you are going from, let's say, atmospheric pressure, 14.7 pounds per square inch, to 0 psi. And when air encounters that much of a differential, it kind of explosively decompresses. So if I was thrown out of an airlock, and my reaction, because I've seen sci-fi films, was to go like this and hold my breath. Once I entered space with 0 psi, these 15 pounds per square inch of air would force its way out of my lungs, and it would be so cold. It'd be so cold as it expands that it would freeze my lungs and my trachea and my mouth, and then like that. And you don't want that to happen. I forgot what we were even talking about. I dropped a marker. Oh, so you would want to make sure that there are no fluids in the car and the tubes, and it would have to be prepared to go into space. Then I don't see why it couldn't return in some kind of usable form. It wouldn't explode or be completely destroyed. Woo! Oh, am I ambidextrous? Oh, challenge accepted. So, this is a bad idea. So, let's see where we got space here. So I'm gonna draw. Oh. Stupid thing. So I'm gonna draw here like this. Not so bad. Not too bad if I do say so myself, which I do. This is a circle, and this is a triangle. I'm not really ambidextrous. I just have to be trying to do this stuff. Yeah, what else we got?
Mr. Wanted, is there one point in the universe which leads us to another dimension that you can't ever wait into black hole singularity? At this point, we don't have the best knowledge of dark matter and dark matter.
Could there be a portal to another part of the universe somewhere in the universe? Can I draw it? Probably not. So it sounds to me like you are talking about wormholes, which the classical drawing of this kind of looks something like this, where you have space-time, because space and time are related. They don't have to be completely flat. They could be, let's say, folded over with something connecting them in between. This would be a portal, if you will. This is a wormhole. It's connecting two different spaces, and because it's connecting two different spaces in a shorter path than it otherwise would be, you can kind of play really weird tricks with time. Does anything like this exist in the universe? I think what people don't realize about wormholes is that they are entirely theoretical. Kip Thorne, the guy who wrote the science for Interstellar and just won a Nobel Prize for discovering and detecting gravitational waves, he was the first dude to formulate the idea of wormholes. They're completely mathematical. To make something like a wormhole work, you would need negative energy or some kind of exotic matter. And exotic matter is just a way of saying something that we've never ever detected before and we don't know if it exists or not. So could there be a portal somewhere in the universe? Maybe, but right now that is all math and that is all theory. Same with parallel universes. It's all math. We have no direct observations of the universe that say, yes, it is true, or no, it's not true. So, who knows? Keep on searching. What else we got?
How fast is the universe expanding?
How fast is the universe expanding? I don't know the rate offhand. But what I do know, which is trippy offhand, is that the universe, if the universe is expanding, it is expanding into nothing. And there is no center to the universe. So if you want to think about if you want to think about it narcissistically, if everything is expanding away from everything else at the same rate, then everywhere is the center of the universe. You are. You're the center of the universe. And also nothing is. Because we all are. And everything is. Trippy.
The oceans are said to be more difficult to explore in outer space. Are there any new materials or innovations real or theorized that can help change that? How do we see the ocean better?
How could we, because we have explored the off-cited claim is that we know the surface of the moon better than the depths of the ocean. Well, first of all, the moon's surface is less, and you can image it with a telescope, so that's much easier. But what could we do to image the bottom of the Earth, the seafloor of the Earth, better? You'd have to get more people. Or you'd have to figure out a way. I mean, right now you have imaging techniques using sound waves, for example, where you can bounce sound waves down and reflect them back and get a picture of what the bottom of the ocean looks like. It's just that the Earth is really big compared to the moon, and you need people on boats surveying every surface of the Earth, which that's not so much a scientific innovation question as it is a practical question. Do we have the money? Do we have the resources? Will governments fund it? If they did, we would have a much better idea of what the bottom of the ocean looked like. And I'd argue probably if you spent as much money doing that as trying to get to the moon or Mars, you'd probably have a better idea than what the surface of the moon or Mars looked like. What else we got?
Would a computer with an organic processor like Computer's Guide be possible?
A computer with organic processors. You know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like your brain. But taking the question seriously for a second, there are. Yes. So it's describing a brain. That's why I'm getting frazzled with it. When you hear a computer, when you hear something in the news like a neural network did this, neural is referring to neuron, which you have in your brain. So because we only are really aware of how our own brains work, our own kinds of intelligence, when we want to teach computers to learn or to do new things, we're simulating how our neurons connect and talk to each other to get computers to do something like that. So all you'd have to do is get a substrate or a matter that could, an organic matter that could simulate the same processes. But again, that is what a brain is. Getting organic processors is the same as hooking up a brain to a computer, which we are working on. What else we got? How's everyone doing? Pretty good? Good. I can't see any of the comments. I have to be told them. So I'm assuming it's okay. People watching? Oh, hey.
Why are planets spheres and not squares
Why are planets spheres and not squares
or triangles?
or triangles? Well, think about how gravity acts on an object. So if an object is in space, if an object is in space, oh no, jeez. If an object is in space like this, where's the gravitational force being applied? Well, the center of gravity is here, in the center, where you can localize you can kind of give an approximation of where most of the mass is. Anyway, so center of gravity is there. Gravity is going to be applying a force through the center of gravity. That's why we call it that. Or you can approximate it on average. And if you apply this shape of force to an object, it becomes spherical. If you have a single point in space and you apply a force through every single bit of three-dimensional space, it is an arrow. It's an arrow approximation of like a sphere of force pressing down from every direction. To have it be a square or a triangle, this force would have to act in directions that gravity doesn't right now. Because it's all pointing through a single point, it has to become spherical. But this only happens when you reach a certain amount of mass, because the gravitational force has to be such that it overcomes what the matter itself can do. So if we can put a satellite into space that's square, and it doesn't become a sphere. That's because the interior strength of the metal is resisting forces to come together. And gravitational force is really, really small, which is why you need a lot of mass. So when you have a lot of mass, gravity acts in all directions, forcing a sphere. Oh man, I hope astronomers aren't watching. What else we got?
On the topic of what is Wakanda worth, how does scientific knowledge of physics and calculus help calculate and create economics, patterns? How does science interact with God?
Oh, so I'm not going to answer the entire science of economics because I don't know, and B, we only have 2 minutes left. But what makes economics so difficult and is difficult in applying science to economics is that you can have supply and demand and all these equations, but the hardest thing to factor in is us. Humans are irrational and weird, and we make market decisions based on how we feel and how we feel things would go and our impressions of risk and stableness. So in theory, to get a full science of economics, you would need a full science of complete human psychology and behavior, which I don't think we will probably ever have, unless we have a computer that could simulate the universe, which we might be in right now. There's no way of telling that we're not. I think we have time for one more question. Let's do one more.
How can Superman work out, since you have to break down your muscles to build them up, and Superman can throw planets with ease? How much can he bench?
How much can Superman bench? I think someone's gonna correct me, but there's some comics panel. It's like 200 quadrillion tons or something like that, some ridiculous figure. But this, how can Superman build muscle? This kind of gets into my episode about can Wolverine build muscle? And I think there is a grand misconception about how this works. Muscle damage is related to muscle growth. You have to, oh yeah, come on, you have to do more reps and tear it down to get the big, but it's related, but it's not a direct correlation. Because if it were, then the people who experience the most muscle damage during exercise, like endurance runners, would have the biggest muscles. But endurance runners are like this, they're tiny and skinny. Resistance training produces the biggest muscles, and it produces the least amount of muscle damage. So, yes, Superman could put on muscle mass because muscle damage is not the only factor. There could be a lot of other things. Immunology, genetics, nutrition, everything factors in. It is not just one thing. Superman can build muscle. And I think that's it. So thank you so much for joining me for this edition of Because Science Live. You can see that I've drawn some almost perfect drawings of many things. I hope you learned something. Remember, Because Science is now its own channel across everything. I hope some of this was informative. It was all off the top of my head, a little bit behind the scenes for you all here watching. Thank you so much. Next thing coming up is a new vlog next Tuesday. Have a great rest of your weekend. Keep those comments and questions coming on all of the handles and channels, and I will see you soon. Be nice to each other because this is all we have. Bye.